This is off the back of a Sky News exclusive, which was published today, and it showed that more than 3% of planned flights from Gatwick haven't taken place so far this year. More than 3%. Can you imagine the amount of people?
Thousands.
Yeah, it's thousands and thousands of people.
And the worst part is when it's cancelled, when people are already at the airport. They may have been there for hours. They could even be on the runway.
They've travelled from, miles away. They've got kids. They've got, it's just dreadful.
Abject misery.
BA and EasyJet are the worst, and Wizz Air and follows along behind.
Okay. Hold that thought. Hold all of that thought. We're going to talk about that in a minute. As you can see, Nina and Andrew are still with us. Later, we're asking whether we need to ration water during these scorching temperatures. But now, your calls on whether holidaymakers are selfish for trying to travel abroad right now. 0207 862 2222. Get in touch. We have had a summer full of scenes like this. Oh, you wouldn't want to be caught in that, would you? Endless queues around airports as flights upon flights is cancelled or delayed. And it doesn't look like it will be getting better anytime soon. Heathrow has told airlines to stop selling summer tickets as it's decided it needs to cap the number of passengers flying out of the airport each day. Families have been left in tears, their holidays in ruins. But climate campaigner Donnachadh McCarthy, who joins us now, he has absolutely zero sympathy for them. In fact, you think they're selfish for even trying to go away, and have even called them airport criminals. A bit harsh?
Not really. I think we have to wake up to inform the public about the actual existential crisis we're facing. If you look what's happening in Ukraine, the public aren't complaining because their lifestyles are changed.
That's because of a war.
Yes, but this is a greater war. This is, according to Lord Stern, the chief economist to the World Bank, says this crisis, climate crisis, is worse than the First World War, Second World War and the Great Recession put together. And Chatham House, one of the world's top think tanks, says we've got 1% chance of not breaching 1.5 degree rise in temperature. Would you or you get on a plane with a 1% chance of landing? Because that's what we're doing to our climate and our future for our kids.
Okay, let's look at what exactly you wrote in this article for your paper, The Independent. And in it, you talk about how people may not understand how criminal their holiday flights are. And you describe the rank criminality of rich people flying on holiday. And you even describe them as so-called victims. Again, and also you're targeting rich people. You do know poorer people, those on maybe minimal incomes. You've got so many budget airlines right now. You've got people who don't necessarily are rich going away as well. You're targeting them.
Well, we're not actually, if you're arguing that in the cost of living crisis, people are flying abroad on holidays on £5,000 holidays, I'm afraid you're on a different planet than I am.
So, you know what, Donnachadh, I come from a really working class background. We have a poverty-stricken. My mum's from Ghana, and we did manage to go away to Ghana when she saved that money. She worked really hard for it and managed to go back home to visit family. Do
you know what percentage of the world population flies each year abroad? It's 4%. It's a tiny, rich elite that are flying. People who can afford to fly to Ghana on holidays are part of the world's rich elite, I'm sorry.
Really?
Yes, absolutely.
Mum, we're rich. We were rich when we were kids. I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, most people actually in the world had nowhere near the wealth to be able to fly to Ghana. And we have to think about the consequences of people in the third world.
You obviously haven't been to Heathrow in December when you got Ghanaians, Nigerians. It was one of the biggest earners for British Airways, actually West African people who aren't rich.
You know the threat to Lagos, the capital of Nigeria? It's going to be flooded. Already the capital of the Philippines is being moved.
Poorer people do travel as well.
No, the actual fact is that if we don't stop flying, the world's poorest are going to die in greater and greater numbers. In the middle of a heat wave, 43 degrees, the idea that rich people are flying out of the UK and we want to feel sorry for them is a joke.
Should we look at those travelling, Nina, as criminals almost just for daring to go on holiday?
Absolutely not. And it's not 43 degrees.
I said we're looking for potential 43 degrees this week. Are we or we are not? We're looking, the Met Office said it's a potential 43 degrees.
Listen to you talking, so can I just say something? We're talking about hard-up people who have saved up all year to take their children for a holiday. Everybody, would you agree people need holidays?
I think children's lives need protecting. Do you think children's lives need protecting?
No.
Oh, yes.
Answer the question. No.
I'm here to have a debate.
Answer a question.
Yeah.
Do people need and deserve holidays?
Yes.
Thank you. Right. So these people have not had holidays.
But they don't need to fly to have a holiday.
Just a minute.
Do they need to fly to have a holiday?
Just a minute.
Do they need to fly to have a holiday?
would you stop? Just allow me to say what I'm going to say. These are people who probably might not have had a holiday for 2.5 years since the pandemic began. We are in
That's untrue. They would have a holiday in the UK last year.
They might not have had a holiday in the UK this year. You have no idea.
They had the ability to have a holiday last year.
They have ability to have a holiday.
Good.
But people also need sunshine. They need to be a break.
That's not true.
They need to have a break away from the regular normal. The point being that since the pandemic, all the prices of hotels, holidaying in this country costs a fortune. It's much cheaper to go abroad. And we're talking not about, as in your independent piece, you talked about a family of 4 flying to New Zealand. That's the furthest you can fly. So you're the most extreme
I also talked
example.
about the Canaries.
But I'm not even talking about the Canaries. We're talking about people going to France or Spain. A little hop. We're not talking about massive...
Andrew, really quickly, do you feel sorry for people caught in queues hours on end and sometimes having their flights cancelled?
I think our guest is a fanatic and an extreme. If anyone's in extremes, it's him with his views.
Sorry, extremism is killing people.
It's offensive. It's offensive.
Killing
to
people's
call
extreme.
People who are saving up for their family to take them on holiday once a year to call them extremists and to
you're being
and
extreme.
to try and make them feel
the
guilty is a crime.
Do you think it's okay to spend 20 years of your household electricity emissions on one holiday? Do you think that's right in a climate emergency?
Yeah. I think people have a choice, and what you want to do? You want to ground every single plane in the world tomorrow?
No, I want to ground every single holiday plane.
Right. Donnachadh, we're getting viewers. Getting in touch. Got a lot to say. Donnachadh. Colin is calling from Cheshire. Colin, do you feel sorry for people who've been stuck for hours queuing, trying to get away, or do you think actually it's tantamount to criminal trying to use a plane, go on a plane?
Yeah. Good morning, panel. Hello.
Hello, good morning, Colin. We can hear you.
Yes, good morning, panel. No, I don't think it's criminal. I think people do deserve a holiday, but I'm ringing up to speak about my own personal holiday, which was booked to go to an 80th birthday party in Jersey last month. And 9 days before the holiday with Jet2, I just happened to go into my emails, and it said about your cancellation of your holiday. Not just the flight, the whole holiday was cancelled. I kept on getting apps from Jet2 saying 7 more days to your holiday, but it had already been cancelled. And there was no concern about getting us another flight or anything like that. It was just cancelled. And I think that's awful in this day and age.
Donnachadh, really quickly, do you feel sorry for someone like Colin?
Well, of course,
devastated by cancellation.
Of course, it's unfortunate. But why did he book the flight in the first place? Does he know? Are you aware?
For mate's birthday, he said.
Where is your flight going to?
Jersey.
Colin?
It was Jersey. Really quickly, sorry, I've got to...
Because actually, do you understand how serious the climate crisis is? At the moment, 25 million people in West Africa, in Eastern Africa, the Horn of Africa, are facing starvation because of climate change. There are millions of people in the UK suffering from heat at the moment. There are millions of people suffering from flooding in China, India, Pakistan. Do you want to contribute to that, or would you do a holiday without flying? That would be positive.
We're continuing this conversation after the break. We'll get back to you. Thank you for your call, Colin. Not much sympathy from Donnachadh, but do stay with us because after the break we are speaking to one woman whose family has been caught up in the travel drama. Rachel Dines will be finding out how she feels about Donnachadh's comments. Donnachadh here, he says that they are being selfish because they shouldn't be flying anywhere. He reckons they are killing the planet and has zero sympathy for them and their ruined holiday plans. We're going to be speaking to Rachel Dines in a moment. Her trip was left in tatters after a cancelled flight. But first, let's take some of your calls. Do you agree with Donnachadh? Let's speak to Margaret. She's calling from Suffolk. Yeah, Margaret, do you agree? Are people being selfish flying away on holidays?
I do think at the moment people are being selfish. Everybody says they've no money, they can't afford to do all sorts of things, but they still want their holidays. Now, we've got wonderful weather here. Unfortunately for me, I'm disabled, so I can't enjoy it except sitting in my conservatory. But can't you just enjoy what weather we've got at the moment? Because what was it, 1976, when we had a similar summer to this? Can't they just hold on for another year when, hope to God, everything will have sorted out, we've got a change of government and everything else? Just stop being selfish, relax, enjoy what we've got at the moment, And I know it's disappointing.
Margaret's predicting a change of government. Thanks for your call, Margaret. Yeah, though, Andrew, do you think she's right? So it's been a very difficult last couple of years, of course, lots of difficulties travelling. However, we need some time. Surely airlines need some time and airports need time to properly recover rather than we all flock out and go on holiday.
I can't tell you how many times I spoke to airlines that were raging about all the restrictions on travel, demanding the restrictions be lifted, and that why did they not foresee the great surge in demand because people have been locked at home, not able to go abroad for 2 or 3 years. It's inevitable that people want to go away, and I defend their right to do it. I don't think it's an extreme thing to do at all. I think this is the extremist on my right. That's the problem. And I defend the right of people to... I mean, absolutely. My family, my parents... My dad worked in a factory. My mum had a sort of manual job. But the holiday was such a treat for them. And they would save all year for it.
But
2 weeks in the sun.
You need it for your mental health. You cannot go... You know, why do we have a Saturday and a Sunday? Because you cannot work 7 days a week. You cannot work 50-odd weeks a year. You've got to have a holiday.
Well, Nina, Donnachadh saying have a staycation. Have a staycation. Let's
speak
to Rachel Dines. Now, her flight to Rome was cancelled last month. Let's talk to her now. Good morning to you, Rachel. So you turned up. Good morning. You turned up to Gatwick Airport only to find your flight wasn't going anywhere. Your youngest son was in a flood of tears over this. How do you feel about Donnachadh's comments? He has no sympathy for you, and essentially it's almost your fault that this happened for going out there in the first place.
Well, I mean, I'd like to know why it's okay for a company to send someone abroad for a business meeting, which is sometimes only 1 hour, when actually we're trying to take our children abroad to enrich their lives and give them a cultural experience. We give them something that we can't get in the UK. And I would like to say that we do mainly holiday in the UK. We've even driven and taken the train to France before. Our main holiday this year is in the UK. But this particular trip was important to us, and it was the third time that we tried to take it, and we've lost money, and yeah, it's not okay.
Donnachadh, you've got sympathy for Rachel's story?
Yeah, well, I think the key point here, Rachel, is obviously you're aware of the issues, and your kids are around 3 or 4 years age, some of them. By the time they're in their mid-20s, the Chatham House says now there's a risk of 4 of the world's food baskets failing simultaneously. Can you imagine what kind of world that will be? And so the emissions from your flight to Rome will be around 2 tonnes, which to most people doesn't sound like much. But it's equivalent to over 2 years of your electricity emissions for your house. So you'd have to turn off everything in your house for 2 years before you make up the emissions for that one holiday. And remember that those emissions will be there for a century, for the rest of your kids' lifestyle. So
Donnachadh,
wouldn't it be better
Rachel
to educate your kids?
About how difficult a family have handled a holiday being cancelled, not necessarily be lectured, about in the environment.
I'm not lecturing her. I'm asking her.
I think very much.
Well, let me. Well,
it
would be good if Rachel and I had a conversation, because I think Rachel looks like a reasonable, empathic person, and I'm sure she cares about her kids' future.
Donnachadh and actually Rachel, Nina, Andrew, take a look at this video of Rachel's children walking back. It's a picture. Excuse me, a picture of Rachel's children walking back to the car, devastated. Can you, Donnachadh? Do you have children?
No, I don't.
No, you don't? OK, well, I'll tell you what. There's nothing more adorable than seeing children excited to go away.
Of course.
And then to get to the airport after queuing and then being told a flight's cancelled, leaving them devastated. You've got no sympathy for that?
I've got sympathy for the... Sorry, there you are.
Rachel, yeah.
Rachel, you have empathy for your kids, but I'm sure you have empathy for kids in the Horn of Africa, kids in China, kids in Pakistan, who are suffering terribly right now in 40, 50 degrees weather. Every plane that leaves Britain is a blowtorch on our kids' futures. And I think you want to educate your kids in being sympathetic and understanding the consequence of our actions on other people.
I absolutely understand that. And I think something that is very important we have to remember is that actually a lot of the problems we have in the world are due to a lack of cultural or religious understanding. You can't give that education and that knowledge to your children without immersing them in other cultures and letting them experience other foods and all of the things that a foreign holiday can provide. So there are, there's pros and cons. There's pros and cons to everything. I do care about the environment. We do as much as we can, to try and and contribute to positive things to help the environment for the future generations. But I just think there's other things at play here as well.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree with you all. And Rachel, you seem a lovely woman and a fantastic mum. And and I agree with absolutely everything she's saying. And the thing is, you should be going to China rather, or somehow lecturing them, because China pollutes the world.
No, China doesn't pollute any more than you or I do per person.
China does.
There's more people in China than there's in Britain, so obviously they pollute more. Come on, let's be real. Compare like with like.
What about India? What about India?
Well, come back to China.
Instead of making people like
India
Rachel,
has got 1.1 billion
people like Rachel feel guilty, which she shouldn't do, and I hope you don't. You should be working hard to make other countries which are polluting. And what about the United States?
Hang on, and aren't burping cows more damaging for the ozone layer? Burping cows are more damaging than the flights that leave this country. So you want the whole country to be vegan as well, presumably? Kill every cow?
Rachel Dines, thank you so much for joining us this morning and sharing your story. Indeed, I do hope you and your family do get a chance to get away. Let's take more of your calls on this, shall we? Let's speak to David calling from Warwickshire. David, do you have any sympathy for people who were trying to get away, queuing for hours, then told your flight's cancelled?
Of course I do. Of course I do.
Why is that? Because Donnachadh doesn't seem to have that sympathy.
Well, yes, I see from 2 points of view. I come from working class parents. I did an apprenticeship in the steelworks in Sheffield many years ago when I was a very young boy, and we loved our holidays. In those days, it used to be always in the UK. And then later, I've been abroad many times and loved it. And I understand why people want to go on holiday. But I would recognise that also we need to take stock of what's happening to the rest of the world. And that's all I'm saying. This is very much a first world problem, but it's affecting the third world.
Doesn't David have a point, Donnachadh? So you've been targeting the rich. You're saying the rich are going away. Actually, you have many working class people going away. But can you not go away and also have sympathy for the environment, care about climate change?
Well, I thought it's very interesting. David very clearly said this is a first world problem, a rich world problem, and that the impacts on the third world are terrifying.
But you do have poor people in the first world.
Yes, exactly. And those people are suffering from climate change as well. For example, there's last night, how many people in London had to choose between heat or sorry, I've lost my train of thought. But I had to choose last night whether to have my window open to cool down in 35-degree heat or have my windows closed so I wouldn't hear the planes flying over my head. Millions of poor people in Britain suffer from the rich people flying as well.
OK, David, thank you very much for your call.
Can we just stop saying rich people flying?
Because
all
it's
sorts
only
of
rich people flying.
It's not only
what
rich people
who fly.
Rich? Well, what do you define as rich?
I define it as over the average income of the global population.
Oh, we're talking about the global population.
Yes.
That is a completely different...
Because Britons fly 8 times more than the global average. 8 times more.
Yes, but we're talking about
a rich country.
It's also because we're an island.
You're a rich country.
So you need to fly.
Are you saying that everybody who lives in this island should never travel off the island unless it's...
No, you can travel by train.
What, across the sea?
Donnachadh, you can get some train fares more expensive.
To go to New York?
No, flying to New York on holiday is irresponsible at this time.
Oh, for heaven's sake. So you are looking for a race of narrow-minded, slightly ignorant people who have not been able to experience culture, politics abroad. You know, you cannot live like...
Vicky, look, Donnachadh does have a point.
Caves,
Things are getting warmer. Historically, if you look at over decades in terms of temperatures, we are seeing higher temperatures around the world, but particularly over in the UK, as we're seeing right now. There is an emergency.
As a nation, we are not the worst.
Well, let's stop flying and make a contribution.
Have you ever taken a flight?
Yes, up to 20 years ago, when I understood the consequences. I stopped flying for holidays. 20 years ago.
How do you get around? No holidays at all?
I take loads of holidays. Fantastic. I go to Snowdonia, I go to Somerset, I go to Dartmoor. I mean,
no way.
Well, you
go
must
to
be quite
Edinburgh.
wealthy then, because British holidays are really
Very expensive.
No, they're not if you go
Okay,
camping.
all right, David, thank you very much for your call. Let's speak to Vicky now, calling from
Back
Greater
in the cave.
Manchester.
You are
Vicky,
so
how do you...
entitled.
One moment, let's take some calls.
Excuse me, I am not entitled.
Yes, you're very entitled.
I'm not entitled.
You're total.
Why do you,
You're the
tell me-
total definition of entitlement.
Why am I entitled?
Because 96, you said people who don't fly abroad are ignorant and have no cultural
No,
education.
no, I'm saying...
96%
no,
of the
I'm
world's population
saying
don't have that privilege.
They don't... I'm saying...
How often have
that
you flown for holidays?
I have not flown since December 2019. I came back from a holiday in France when I drove...
How many times have you flown for holidays in the last
Okay,
10 years?
Donnachadh, you've had a lot of focus
If you're a travel
on
journalist,
working class
you have
people.
to fly.
A lot of working class
talking
people
about privilege
unable
now.
to travel
God's
because
sake.
of their earnings. However,
No,
when it
talking about
comes,
rich
if
people.
you took a flight from Birmingham to Glasgow, it'll cost £22. A train would cost £40.
Sure.
So it can be cheaper to fly.
And you know what happened yesterday? The Spanish government has made trains
But
for medium trains and long trains
the point is
free
people
for
on,
local people
on
because they
lower
understand the
incomes are
consequences.
travelling using planes as well. Let's speak to Vicky now, Greater Manchester. Vicky,
Let's
got to
make
you.
trains
Got to you.
free.
Yeah, let's speak to Vicky, shall we? Let's take a call, finally. Vicky, thank you for calling. How do you feel about people who are stuck or unable to travel on a plane? Do you have sympathy for them, or like Donnachadh, not so much?
Well, I'm going on a holiday myself this summer, hopefully. Like, obviously, a lot's going on with the flight, so we say hopefully. But we haven't been away with my family since 2019, since summer 2019. I've had a baby in 2020, and I've been stuck in home with the baby. You know, not the same maternity, not the same baby classes. So we've not had anything very nice happening to the family since all the COVID stuff started. And also, like, abroad for us is family. So we've got family abroad, and my little boy hasn't met a lot of my family yet. So to me, it may feel selfish for something that we want to do with our family, and we look forward to a whole year, like mentally draining working year, you know, with the baby at home and everything.
Vicky, let's put it to Donnachadh.
Ridiculous.
Let's put it to... Vicky pretty much sums up the struggles people have had over the last couple of years getting away. She's been at home with a baby. They need a break. They need a holiday abroad.
Why abroad? They need a
is our
holiday,
argument.
but they don't need a holiday abroad. 50% of people in Britain never fly abroad for holidays each year. 50% of us have holidays that we really enjoy and fantastic. We enjoy Somerset, we enjoy Gloucester, we enjoy
Her
beautiful
right
places.
to
in
choose
Britain.
to go away.
No, her right to have a holiday is fantastic. Let's have that. But let's not destroy the planet when we're having our holiday. That's just a simple
That's
message.
the worst of island mentality I've ever heard.
What, you want to
have
destroy the
live-
planet for your
you have-
holidays?
You have to learn, and from the rest of the world, we cannot go back to the caves. We just can't.
Well, what will take us back to the caves is your
you are like
attitude.
the worst sort of climate change extremist. You are a bad advertisement for your cause because of your intolerance and extremism.
No, sorry, you're the extremist.
You can call me that.
It's you're the
Elected to by
extremism.
proselytising killjoy.
Name-calling
is
ad hominem
somebody-
attacks.
Listen,
You've been abusing us the whole programme.
I've been calling you
You've been calling
privileged.
us the whole
I'm
programme.
not
I'm privileged.
You've
called
abused
me
us.
entitled.
You're a rich white lady
I'm-
who flies for holidays. That's the definition
for
of
heaven's
privilege.
sake.
OK, we are going to have to end it there. Vicky, thank you for your call.
Out of your
Donnachadh,
own mouths,
thank you
you
too.
damn
God, you took on a lot of heat. Well done, you.
I appreciate that.
Later, it's Jeremy Vine Extra with Christo Fufas and Shekhar Guraval. They'll be joining at dawn. But after the break, do we need to ration water during the heat wave? Turn off these fountains, maybe? 027 862